Hey there! This video today is going to break down for you how to sell web design services to your customers. We're going to go through every single aspect of the web design sales process, starting out at the initial contact with the potential client, through the sales call, to the proposal, closing the sale, and then onboarding the client so you can start off on the right foot. Also, real quick, accompanying this video is a lengthy blog post about how to sell web design services to your clients, as well as a free downloadable PDF so you can take that along with you. Please feel free to check that out in the notes accompanying this video. Before we get into this, a bit of background on me. Who is this person who is telling you how to sell web design services? Well, for 6 years, I built up, grew, and then sold a web design agency. I did our marketing and sales, and so this video on how to sell web design services is going to touch on all aspects of the sales cycle with web design clients. Now, I know that selling web design can seem tough. Web design is certainly getting increasingly commoditized. You have clients who want a cheap website for $500, and there are plenty of designers who are trying to compete on price. But we're not taking that route. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to sell $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 and up websites to clients. And if you're not there yet, stay tuned, because we're also going to talk about some of the indispensable tools that can help you get there. Big challenge with those, commoditized $500 websites is you have customers who are just trying to get the lowest possible price. And what you'll eventually find when you're selling these bigger ticket websites is your clients are ending up better to work with. The best client experiences that I've had have been with the clients who are willing to pay more because they're valuing you more. If a client is looking to pay $5,000 and up for a website, they're valuing your work and the website that's going to be part of their business for $5,000 or more. If someone is looking for a $500 website, that's all that they're valuing your time and your effort and their website for. And so getting to that $3,000, $5,000 and up website service range is going to be huge, not just for the bottom line for your business, but also it's going to lead to a lot more fun projects for you. So that all being said, let's get started. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page when we're talking about the sales cycle. So first step of our sales cycle is you're going to have the initial contact. That could come from an inbound lead, an advertisement, a cold call that you do outbound, or a referral. Somehow someone has expressed interest in your service. Great. Then you'll have a sales call. This is where you identify what the client wants. It's where you learn about what's important to them, and then it's where you pitch them your services. After that, you should then craft them a semi-personalized proposal, and after that, it's all about follow-up to get them to sign with you, overcoming along the way any objections that they may have, and once that's all taken care of, and they're signed on and they're paid up, and not before they're paid up and signed on, they're officially a client, and then you can onboard them. So let's kind of start with square one and talk about, the introduction with new potential clients. So you have someone who is interested in your services. In another video, we're going to talk about marketing your services to get interest from new potential clients, but that's for another day. At this point, we're just going to touch on selling your services and selling web design. So right now, let's assume for a moment that we were just introduced to someone via email who is interested in a website design. What do you do next? Well, as quickly as humanly possible, you need to respond to them. Timeliness is so gosh darn important. Remember, the first interaction that someone is having with your business is this initial email, this initial contact. And if you take forever to respond to them, to sign them on or take their money, it's a bad look. They're going to assume that you're slow to work with them or slow to do their web design project, and they'll want to be less likely to work with you. The sooner you get back to them, the better. The sooner you can move things along, because there is momentum here, and the more time it takes for you to move the client along from this initial contact to signing them on, the more momentum you're going to lose, and the less likely it'll be that they actually sign up with you. I learned from a mentor of mine that with web design, sales is everything. If you don't have sales, you don't have a business. So it's incredibly important to obviously be proud of your work and the web designs that you're doing. But if you don't have sales, then you don't have a business. You can't grow. You can't pay your own bills. So having your sales process streamlined and working well is critical to your business. Your potential client, when they reach out to you or get in touch with you, keep in mind that they're also potentially browsing around to multiple different companies and getting quotes from them and interviewing them as well. So you need to respond right away and set up that sales call and get them to sign with you before anyone else. The second you see an email in your inbox from a potential client or any sort of introduction, reply. It doesn't even need to be an intense, extremely thoughtful email. You don't need to spend hours on it. You can just say, hey, thanks for reaching out. I'd love to talk with you and see if we're a good fit to work together. Now, you may be wondering why I chose that language in particular. I said, see if we're a good fit to work together. During my sales calls, I use a certain technique and approach that I didn't invent, but I'm just going to call it, because I can't think of the right name for it, the question-answer approach, mainly because I can't remember what it was called. In sales, a lot of salespeople come off pushy, adversarial even, and when it's clear that this person that you're speaking with is trying to sell you something and get you to part with your money, it comes off like this is a zero-sum game with a winner and a loser. And no one wants to buy from a salesperson feeling like they're wondering, did I win or lose on this? And I hate that, and I'm sure you and your customers do too. That's why I prefer a more helpful approach. I take a consultative tack where I want to come off like I am helping the customer find what's right for them, and not just come off like that. That is really what I want to do, because I want to make sure that the client is going to be happy with the project and the end result that they get. I want to make sure also that we're going to be a good fit to work together, that I'm going to enjoy working with them and not regret taking their money. So I want to learn about what they're looking for without interjecting any salesmanship along the way. And once I've listened to them, I can say, well, having heard what this is what you're looking for, I think this might be the right solution for you. You see what I did there? I take this approach which builds trust, and it increases the likelihood that the client signs with me, rather than me just talking at the client, telling them why they need to hire me. And then the client then gets bullied into signing the contract, and then they're reluctant the entire way through, afraid of what they're going to get, and maybe not happy about the experience. So at the very least, my first communication, I'm quick to say, hey, I want to learn more and see if we'd be a good fit to work together. It also makes the customer feel good, because in my experience, everyone loves talking about themselves, and they also want you to know what it is that they're looking for, that they're not another template one-size-fits-all project, that they have certain needs that they need met in their design. And also, asking them to learn more about their business, shows that my work product is going to be tailored and personalized for that client, rather than me just saying, oh yeah, we totally do that kind of work, and this shows it better. There are also a couple of tools I'm going to be talking about later in this video that are going to be essential for your workflow. First, I want to talk about one that we're going to use right now, right at this first, email introduction with the client, and it's a scheduler. This is going to save you a mess load of time of back and forth in emails trying to figure out a right time for a sales call. Maybe you've had this before where you say, hey, how is 10:30 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday? And they respond, no, that doesn't work for me. Great. No? Okay, well, how about 12 p.m. Eastern on Friday? Whatever. This back and forth just wastes a lot of time of yours and the client. And as I said before, the more time that goes on, the more momentum you lose, and the less likely it is that the client signs with you. So I use a scheduling application that basically it pulls up your calendar so a client can schedule a time to speak with you. And they can check their calendar and see what works for them, and on their own time schedule a call that works for everybody. I like this because it not only helps save me time, but my clients loved it. It made things super convenient for them and saved them the back and forth. And also attached to this app comes with reminders and notifications, and that decreased the likelihood that the client was a no-show on our sales call. So overall, that was really just a big win. As for what scheduling software to use, there are a bunch of options out there. There's Acuity Scheduling, Calendly, Schedule Once. I've dabbled with a few of them. They really all do the same thing. It doesn't matter which one you choose. And they should all integrate with your Google or Outlook calendar or whatever you use to be able to pull up your free time slot so that they can show it to a client and the client can schedule a call with you. So at this point now, we should be through the first phase of the sales cycle, and that's the initial contact, and now we're getting ready for the sales meeting. But before we talk about the sales meeting, I want to talk about another must-use piece of software, and that is a CRM. A CRM is, if you're not familiar, an application that helps you manage customer relationships and clients throughout the sales cycle. They are a must-have for sales, whether you're a team of 1 or 100. Seriously, when I first started my selling web design and started my business, I was using a spreadsheet to track my leads. But the problem was that it didn't help me stay on top of them like I wanted to. A CRM has everything a salesperson needs. Most modern CRMs, they'll give you a sales pipeline dashboard showing you all your leads in their different stages, from kind of the stages that we're mentioning now: the intake, the sales meeting, the proposal, and onboarding and closing. With a CRM, you can also get notifications of who you need to reach out with or follow up on any given day. And that's hugely important. You can't sell web design without having a CRM. I guess you technically could, but you're going to end up losing a lot more momentum and losing track of a lot of leads if you don't have a CRM, because a CRM really helps you stay on top of everyone. If you have, whether you have 5 leads or 50 leads, a CRM will help you there. I actually had often up to 50 different sales opportunities in my pipeline at once. And with, one click, I could see, all right, here are the people I need to follow up with today. Here's where they're at. Here's what I quoted them. And here's what I need to do next. There are a lot of different CRM apps out there, but the best one is a CRM that you will use every day. HubSpot makes a free CRM that works just fine. So does Zoho. I personally liked Pipedrive a lot. Pipedrive is a lightweight CRM that I found really easy to use. It starts about $15 per month per user. It was the first CRM that I used as a one-person sales team, and I used it as we grew and added another salesperson to the team. It also has reporting features, so you can actually see your sales conversion rates and even break that down by sales channel, and get reporting on your other team members as well. But ultimately what matters is what CRM are you going to actually use every day. So find that and go with that. With all that said now, let's move on to the sales meeting. What are you going to say when you're speaking to someone who is interested in web design services and you want to convince them to go with you over anyone else? So your sales meeting can either be in person or over the phone. For this video, I'm going to talk about phone call meetings in particular rather than in person or anything else, because really in-person meetings should kind of follow a similar script to this. But since you're in person, you're probably also going to want to include some other elements, like maybe a presentation, or you want to share some designs or sales materials in the meeting. And I've seen some people do web design sales meetings as visual presentations with demos and things like that of your platform, or basically showing them your portfolio. But I really don't think that that's necessary or it adds any substantial value. I understand why people do it though. It keeps the prospective client more actively engaged than a phone call where they could be at their desks or multitasking. But over the years, I have had plenty of trouble getting sales prospects to show up to a go-to meeting, that it just wasn't worth the hassle of trying to get them to see my screen. Once I made my first hire, I started kind of creating outlines of how a sales meeting should go, and so we could replicate that for this other salesperson for every sales meeting, so it wasn't just in my head. In hindsight, though, I really wish I had done this sooner, because you'll want your sales call to have an outline, a roadmap that has a start and end point based on your experience of what works well, that covers everything that you need to cover, and gets you to the point of getting a proposal to your client. Later in this video, we'll talk specifically about crafting the perfect proposal. And today, hopefully, I'm going to save you some time and talk about what I would have in my sales meeting outline. Here are the stages that I would have in my sales meeting. First, there's the introduction. Then there is the problem stage. Then there is active listening, finding a solution, questions, and then next steps. Now, let's break down each one of these. First, there's the introduction. First thing I'll say, hey, Bob, Andrew here, is now still a good time to talk? And I ask them this every time because, some people are, as you might find, are polite and they'll take your call, but they're distracted or they really don't have the attention to give you that you need for this. And we don't want that. We need their captive attention. So ask that question, provided it's still a good time to talk. I then want to introduce the problem and then give them the opportunity to speak. Notice how I'm not spending time to talk about myself or what we do. At this point, they were put in touch with you. They vaguely know that you can help them because they were recommended or they came across your services somehow. They know that you do web design, but they want to see, are you going to be a good fit? So let's first learn about what it is that they're trying to achieve. So I'll say something like, hey, so you reached out saying you were looking to build a new website for your restaurant. I wanted to see if we'd be a good fit. Can you tell me a bit about you and what you're looking for? Notice I'm saying here, I wanted to see if we'd be a good fit. As I mentioned before, I take a consultative approach. I want them to feel at ease with me and not see me as this salesperson adversary that is potentially in the way of them of getting what they want. So, meanwhile, I also want to see, is this going to be a good kind of job that we can work on? Are we both going to be happy at the end of this? Not every job is going to be the right fit for us. So this interview is really like a two-way. It's like a two-way interview rather than a sales meeting. They want to see, am I going to be a good fit for them? Am I going to be good to work with? Are they going to like working with me? Do they think I can ultimately get them the result that they're looking for at a price point that they're happy with? And I want to find out, is this client going to be good to work with? Am I going to have a good time? Am I going to also get them to be able to pay and the value of this project to my company? So, and if there are any red flags at this point, and over the years, you'll learn what those red flags are. I can maybe decide I actually don't want to take this job. Like if they say, for example, I worked with 5 other designers and they all did a terrible job. That's a red flag. It shows me that the client was probably not able to express really what they wanted, or they had unrealistic expectations, or they were maybe a nightmare to work with. So this video is meant to be all about how to sell web design services. But to this potential customer in this call, you're not here to sell them web design services. You're here to help them find a solution to their problem. The website really is just a means to an end. They need to get customers. They need to increase their brand awareness, But by acting consultative during this sales meeting, you're helping to get to the root of their problem rather than to say, just to like be like, I provide this one thing. I can make you a website if you need a website. They don't need a website to have a website. They need a website because they need people to be able to find them online, or they need to be able to get new business. So I want to frame it with that in mind. That's why I have this staging of a problem stage and then the solution stage after that. So usually during this point, the client is, telling you a long story of what they're looking for and why. They'll likely open up to you here and, with the invitation to talk about what they're looking for, you can take notes in your CRM alongside this and get a better understanding of what's important to them. You want to find out what's motivating them. Why do they need a website now? And knowing what's important to them is key, because later when you frame your solution to their problem, you want to frame it around around their main problem. So you shouldn't be 100% listening. It should really be, active listening. I have this active listening stage here. You're going to want to repeat things back to them and show that you're listening. So it sounds like you're looking for X. It demonstrates that you're not only listening, but you're understanding what they want. This way, when you eventually pose your solution to them, the client will see that your solution is going to be the fix to the problem that they have. I use this language of problem and solution because that's what all of this is. And so after you're getting this from the client, if there is anything that you need to know that they have not addressed, now would be the time to ask that. There are some technical things you're going to need to know. For example, do you have an existing website? Do you know where your domain is registered, and do you have access to your DNS records? That can be a challenge if you're ready to launch a website, and this has happened more than a few times. You're ready to launch this new website that you've built, but the client can't get into their registrar either because they've forgotten their password, they don't know where the registrar is, or, the people that had previously made the website for the client controlled the registrar and the DNS and all of that. And that can be a big problem. Other questions you might want to ask: do you know how many pages your website has? You could find this out later, but, it can help you out. And another good question to ask at this point before posing your solution: what don't you like about your current website? Things like that. And, after it seems like exactly what your client is looking for, we enter this solution stage. And at this point, you can say to the client, so from discussing this with you, it looks like you're looking for X. We can help with that. I use this language in particular because this goes back to our consultative approach. Coming from a seemingly unbiased approach, we demonstrate that we took the time to understand their unique problem, and now we're offering a solution. And that, in fact, we can help them solve their problem by building them the perfect website that meets their goals. Of course, if it becomes clear during this call that you don't want to work with the client and you don't think you'd be a good fit and could deliver for them, now's the time when you can say that. You can say, thanks for sharing that information. It sounds like you're looking for this. I don't think we'd be a good fit for you. I have someone else I can recommend though. Or you could just say, I don't think we'd be a good fit. Sorry. And then basically end the call. But I like these kind of magic words of, we can help with that. That kind of can segue into your pitch, and the pitch that you're giving should be tailored to the problem that the client has posed. So, if they say that they have a financial planning firm, they need a website to connect with people who are referred to them, and highlight the team members of the firm who do the financial planning work, you can say something like, we can definitely help you out with that. We can create a website, built with your ideal client in mind, so that when people are referred to your firm, they will see a beautiful website that highlights your team members and their experience. And the site will also be built to prominently mention, things like your phone number and address, your contact information, because ultimately you want them to call you and set up an appointment. Address all of the client's pain points in your pitch here. None of the solution information should be coming in a written proposal down the road. It should be coming now in this solution section of the sales meeting. Ideally also you have an outline written out that has all the notes that you want to talk about, that you're coming up with as the client is mentioning their problem, and you can kind of address each one of those concerns that they have and kind of what they're looking for. Beyond this also, all this data, all these notes that you're taking should be going right into your CRM. And after that, once you've made the pitch, ask the client, do you have any initial questions? They might come back to you at this point and be asking about pricing if you haven't mentioned it. They might be asking if you have done any similar work or if you have any testimonials. And you can say that you're going to follow up after this call with a proposal that includes a pricing breakdown along with relevant portfolio samples. And, this way you don't have to think on your feet here. If they ask, hey, do you have any accounting firms that you've done work for in Alaska? And, if you don't really know, then you could say, let me check on that. I can get back to you. If you know, though, you can reframe. And if the answer is no, and you don't have something to show a client, you could say, we don't have a client specifically in that area, but we have something similar that should hopefully satisfy what the client is looking for. You can kind of direct them to that instead. But a flat out no kind of slows things down. Pivot. If your answer is a no, pivot to something related that should still satisfy the client. After that, ultimately, I do like to give them a gauge of pricing here. I know that, you may need to check out how many web pages their existing website has, and you may not be able to give a price off the fly, but I like to give them a sense of pricing here so there's no sticker shock, because if they see the proposal that you're going to come up with, and we're going to talk about the proposal in a few minutes, so hang tight, I want to make sure that we're still in the realm of possibly working together. I want to say, our prices start at $3,000, $5,000, whatever, and you list out what you're getting with that base price, and mentioning that pricing goes up from there depending on how many pages you need, how many pages need to be migrated over, plugins, etc., things like that. And after I give the price and the breakdown, I give to kind of sell the price and make it understood why I'm charging this price, that it's not completely arbitrary. I pause. I let them speak first. If they ask for the price and you give it, and once you give this justification, not explanation really, not a justification, stop talking. If you're trying to justify the price after you're saying what it is, rather than stating it kind of matter-of-factly, I think it puts you on the defensive. If they're like, well, what's your price? It's $3,000, but blah, 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 blah. Then it shows that kind of comes off to me like you're trying to justify why you're charging that much, and you're kind of being on the defensive like that. It makes the client think, well, can I get it for less from them? Are they unsure about their price? Are they coming up with it out on the top of their head? But if you're kind of listing, oh yeah, the price is $5,000 and it comes with this, this, and this, and that's what you get, very matter-of-factly, it shows that, you're not, this is what you charge, and that's not unreasonable, and so we shouldn't act like this is unreasonable. The pricing can be a bit of a standoff situation. Who's going to blink first? Don't let it be you. The client will let you know if it's completely out of their price range, at which point you can come up with your rebuttal of, here's why we're worth what we charge. We're not a commoditized template service that you're going to get $400 or $500 where you have no input on the design. We charge $5,000, $10,000 because we're providing a premium service and experience. My sites are all customized and tailored to each client. There are plenty of people who charge less than you for web design, but you don't want to, you get what you pay for. Do you want a quality website or not? And, price is where I found that the most opposition comes in. So be ready with some rebuttals, come up with them, practice them over and over again until you're happy with that. If there are any other objections, prepare your rebuttals and memorize them, because I found over the years, there are probably the same half dozen objections that come up over and over again. And after that, as you're getting questions, some of these questions might be framed as objections. Do you have any examples of my specific type of project? And if you don't, you can say, we've worked on many similar projects, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with one of our satisfied clients if you're interested to learn more about the experience. You also may not have answers for every question they provide, and it's okay to say, we'll follow up after the call with an answer, and I can email you what you need. After this point, once you've addressed all their main questions, we get to the closing. Here you say, it was great speaking with you to learn more about what you're looking for. After we hang up, I'm going to put together a proposal for you. It's going to contain a lot of the same information that we've already talked about, including information about the design process, pricing, as well as our agreement. And with the agreement, you can look that over, and if everything's great to you and you're ready to get started, you can sign that agreement and send that back, and we can get your initial payment processed, and we can get moving. I know that, you can say something like, I know that you said that you're looking to get started soon, and so we can get going as soon as you're ready to go. Kind of and this is a good question to ask for you also, is when are you looking to get started, or when are you looking to have your website up by? If they say, I want my website up yesterday, you can say, all right, well, this is a very timely issue for you. We're ready to get started when you are, so kind of put it back on them to help move through the proposal process and move through the sales cycle. Ideally, provided that you've had a very robust conversation, nothing that you're sending in the proposal should be a surprise, pricing included. Some people I've seen make very elaborate proposals that they're trying to make it so that the proposal is doing the wowing and the selling, but really all the things that you're selling should be done in the sales meeting, because the proposal really should just reiterate what you've said and show them the pricing and where to sign up. And also, we'll talk about this later when we're talking about proposals. The proposal should have an Esign component so that the client can easily sign on when they're ready to. A proposal shouldn't have to do the selling because, frankly, it just doesn't do the job well on its own. The proposal itself can't overcome any objections that the client might have. That's up to you. It won't win you any deals, I think, but the proposal could be a reason that someone might be turned off from hiring you. So in the sales call at this point, you're going to mention that you're going to send over a proposal. What else? You can say that you're going to send over some other collateral if you want to, like a case study if you think that'd help. And that should basically wrap up the sales call, and that'll take care of this sales meeting section of our sales process. Except for one more thing. This is a thing that I really find very important and really helpful. It is the ask. Ask for the sale. This might sound uncomfortable, but this can help you uncover hidden objections. I use this phrase. I really like this phrase. I think after learning from you, what you're looking for, I think we'd be a good fit, and I would like the opportunity to work with you. So, after us talking it over, what, if anything, is keeping you from signing up with us? This gives them some room to let you know about what hesitations they might have. And then you can address them and potentially overcome these objections here on the call. They might not tell you everything on their mind because they've already written you off and they just don't want to work with you, or they may have just been polite, but you can't overcome an objection that you don't know about. So here is where you're asking for the sale. And sometimes they'll give you the sale right then and there before you even get to the proposal. And I've had this happen where they say, nothing. Everything you said sounds great. It's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm ready to get going. Send me the agreement. That is a huge win. The worst thing that someone can do when you ask for the sale is not tell you what's on their mind. But anything else that they tell you gives you more information and gets to the heart of any concerns that they might have from signing up with you. Last thing, set a follow-up. When you have them on the phone, set up a calendar appointment for a follow-up call, letting them know that you're going to get them a proposal, the next day, and then we should follow up after that, and after you've had time to review, and get them to commit to a specific follow-up appointment, a day and time when they can be on the phone, and discuss next steps with you. I've had this problem before where I've said, okay, great, I'll send you a proposal. And they say, okay, great. And I send them a proposal, and then I hear nothing from them. And then I have to chase them down to follow up with them to get their attention again, to steer back towards this web design project and sign them on. But if on the call while you have them here, you get them to commit to a follow-up call and you send them a calendar appointment that they RSVP to, that they're free at, presumably, you have another follow-up date. And for basically closing them after they've seen the proposal if they have not committed yet. So after this, your client really should appreciate this because you're not leaving them to their own devices to get back in touch with you. And this is important because as I've said before, the follow-up is where deals are won and lost. The follow-up is where deals are won and lost because so often, inertia hits, we lose momentum and people can get a proposal and they just don't follow up with you because other things get their attention and come to the forefront. And, it's easier to do nothing than to do something, especially with a big project like a new website. So moving things along and having that specific follow-up is going to be where this deal is likely won. Last thing on the phone call before you hang up, tell them that you look forward to the opportunity to work with them. I think subtle things like this, helping them, it helps them really envision what it's like to work with you. And it makes them see past the proposal stage and into a collaborative relationship in working on this website project. And then once you have, you had the sales meeting and you hang up the phone, then you update your notes in your CRM, add any call notes, and then you put the proposal together. And so now we're in the proposal stage. And let's talk about creating the winning web design sales proposal. There are a few different ways that you can do a proposal. You can do it simply with an editable Google or Word doc that you then turn into a PDF and email to the client, or you can use some fancy proposal creating software like Proposify. I really like Proposify, though I never used it in practice. I demoed it, and it had a lot of features that I liked, but they just didn't really integrate with our workflow, so we couldn't use it. If you have the capabilities, I would recommend it. Proposify looks great. It's interactive, and it has Esign components built in, which are nice, as well as payment components. But regardless, whatever you choose for using for your proposal, there should be a few specific components that you're going to need. Ultimately, you don't want to reinvent the wheel and start from scratch every time. So you're going to want to build a template that you use and reuse for each new proposal. The sections that you will want to include will be a personalized introduction, a services section, deliverables, pricing, and the agreement. First, there's the introduction, and this is where your CRM notes come in handy. I'll take a few minutes here to explain, using the client's own words, what their challenge is, why they're looking for help. Then I'll explain a recommended solution that I have, which is what we're providing them. We're going to build this website that is going to solve this problem that the client has. And this way it comes off, that we're not just merely a vendor that does websites, but we're more like a consultant that is helping solve this problem. Like I said before, this video may be about how to sell web design services, but really what the client wants is a solution, not a product. After I do the intro, then I'll use a kind of templated services section where I break down the services that I'm providing. I'll educate them a bit on what it is that we do, what sets us apart, what we do differently than competitors. And this part can have a bit of fluff and self-promotion to it, kind of reinforcing that we're the expert and we're who they should be hiring. I'll also do things like discussing timeline, what's the process like, what happens at each stage of the design or the marketing, who owns what, when, and I'll show them what it's like to work with us so they can, vision themselves in that position. After that, I'll have a section on deliverables. What is the client exactly paying for? How many pages are they getting? Is there a client WordPress training involved? How many revision rounds are there? How many stock images do they get? Do we provide any content? The deliverables section is where you're going to line item mention the tangible things that the client is getting. And sometimes this section really can be merged into the pricing section because you do want people to know exactly what they're getting for the price. But let's talk about the pricing section now. Most people reading proposals jump to this section. It's really what they care about most, especially if they haven't gotten a price from you on the phone. So make sure your pricing section looks good. I want you to lay out all the elements and things that people are going to get with your web design services. The more you list out that are actual real deliverables, the better it looks. They're going to look at your pricing and then think, oh, that's a reasonable price. Look at all that I'm getting for this price. And that's ultimately the goal. And at the end of the proposal, if you're using proposal software or anything, you can tack on your agreement. This should mention things like ownership of content, payment schedule, and the like. You may need to do some research to see how many pages of site content they currently have that needs to be moved over to the new website. But ultimately, there really shouldn't be a ton of research time that you need to spend before crafting and sending the proposal. And over time, really, you should be able to send a simple proposal from start to finish in about 15 minutes. And it'll be a great looking proposal too. So once you have that done, send that off to the potential client, saying in your email that you enjoyed speaking with them, attached find the enclosed proposal, and then give them instructions on how to get started. Show them that, after you look at this proposal, you can e-sign and provide the first payment here, and then we can get started and set up a call with our project manager or something like that. And also, close the email asking for the sale again. We look forward to working with you, something like that. Then go to your CRM. Once you've done all this, update your information in your CRM. Add the price that the client has been quoted, attach the proposal itself, and then move the client to the follow-up stage. Now let's talk about the follow-up stage. The day after you send the proposal, follow up with a quick email. Hey, I wanted to check in and see if you had any initial questions about the proposal. The reason I do this the day after is because it keeps the momentum going. Sometimes the client hasn't looked at the email yet, hasn't looked at the proposal, just hasn't had time to give it another thought. But if you ask them if they have any initial questions, or maybe any initial objections, or if they're thinking of writing you off, this can give you an opportunity to rebut any objections and also bring you back to focus if they have completely ignored your last email with your proposal. If your follow-up call is a week away, a lot of things can be distractions or get in the way, but kind of nudging them to ask if they have any questions, you can make sure that they take a second to look at the proposal and give you any initial feedback. Or they might just say, "Oh, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. I will look at it before our follow-up call, though." Awesome. Next, you have this follow-up call that you've scheduled ahead of time. Hopefully they show up to the call. Sometimes they won't, at which case you're really in this scenario where you have to follow up with them constantly to get their response and try and schedule this follow-up call. On the follow-up call, you can walk them through the next steps, which, at this point they should know, but you want to reiterate them the process and, make it easy for them. I need you to e-sign the agreement and submit payment. You may choose to do payments in like milestones or percentages at different stages, but, all of it should be clear in your agreement. And the client has to provide some payment to get started. Don't start any web design project without getting a client to pay something. If they don't show up to your scheduled follow-up call, follow up by email, and then follow up by phone, and then by email, and so on. And I recommend if they haven't responded to you, if they haven't shown up to the follow-up call, hit them up every other day. Really, seriously, try different times of day. Time is not on your side at this point. Sometimes people get busy, and that's understandable. But the longer the time takes between the sales meeting and the follow-up, the more momentum you're going to lose, and the less likely the potential client signs with you. You might be a little uncomfortable. You might think that, this is a bit much following up that often. If they want to sign with us, they'll sign with us. But trust me here. This shows that you want their business, and ultimately they'll appreciate that more than they'll see any headaches in you seeming like you're hassling them to get back in touch with them. Seriously, following up continuously is much more appreciated than you can even imagine. And at this point, if for any reason they say, we're looking at a few other options as well, that doesn't mean that things are over. You should still try and save the deal. Find out what it is that they're looking for that they're not confident that you can provide. Overcome the objection. Eliminate any concerns that they may have. The deal is not lost until the client has signed with another provider. And even then, I would follow up every so often if they have to say, is there anything that you can help out with or anything like that, or is there any opportunity? So when you have this follow-up and let's say the client has given you a verbal yes that they want to work with you, while they're on the phone, if they haven't yet, try and get them to e-sign your agreement, pulling up your agreement and signing on and kind of getting the ball rolling. For agreements, you can use a service like, there are a bunch of e-sign services out there. There's Right Signature, DocuSign, HelloSign, or there's one built into Proposify. I think that it's important to use an electronic document signing agreement because it really helps reduce friction and get your agreement signed. Because an e-signature takes 1 minute. They have to sign in, sign the agreement, and click send, and that's it. And it's really just as simple as clicking a button, and that's really all they have to do. But if they don't have to e-sign, if that's not an option, then what they have to do more likely with you is print out your agreement that you've sent, go to the last page, sign it, then scan it and email it back to you. And that's a big burden on them. It takes a lot more time. The e-sign agreement has no friction. It's so easy to do. And often they also can integrate with your payment processor so that once they've signed, you can collect a down payment or retainer for the design project. Really, you want to make it as seamless and easy and effortless as possible for your client to sign up with you. The more friction there is, the more difficult it is for them to sign on with you, and you may lose them. All of these things can contribute to losing momentum. Time, technology, all of that. So after getting that agreement signed, we need to get payment. You can use things like Stripe, FreshBooks, Xero, QuickBooks, all of that. It's all good, but something electronic, because frictionless, effortless is important. If you make them pay by check, it's more friction that you don't need. I know some people who have disliked taking electronic payments or credit cards because they get charged like a fee of like 3% or something like that. But it's better to get paid with a small fee than not get paid at all. And clients expect to be able to pay by credit card, especially for services like web design. So sign up for a service like Stripe or FreshBooks or anything like that. And this way you can get paid from your clients quickly, like today, rather than having to wait for a check to come to the mail and deposit it and make sure it's all cleared and good. If the client doesn't have a credit card and can't pay with a credit card, that's kind of also a red flag. And once you have gotten that payment, you've got the agreement signed, and everyone's clear on what it is that they're getting, that's when you can start moving them on to the onboarding stage. They've cleared the sales process, and now you can start on the right foot with them with the design process by having the salesperson kick things off with the project manager who's going to be in charge of their web design project. And that is, start to finish, everything that you need to know about how to sell web design services. We talked about everything from the software and the tools that you'll need, to how to run a sales meeting, to creating a winning proposal, to follow up and closing the deal. I hope this covers everything that you wanted to know about how to sell web design services. If there is something more that we didn't cover or didn't cover enough that you would like to learn more about, please let us know. Let us know in the comment section below. Whether it's how to sell web design services or anything else related to web design or freelance businesses, please let us know. And also, please like and subscribe to this channel so you can see more great videos and we can help reach more people looking to learn about how to build a successful freelance or web design business. So smash that like button and subscribe button, leave a comment, and let us know what other type of content you'd like to see. So for those of you out there looking to better sell web design services, happy hunting.